Another breakdown and predictions video today. It's going to be for LFA. And just before we get the video started, if you guys want me to do an Invicta video this week, which there is odds for Invicta already out, and there's going to be odds for LFA as well, but they're not out yet. But so you will have an opportunity to bet on these two cards if I do break them down on the channel. If I can get 50 likes on this video, if I can get 5 comments as well saying that they want the Invicta breakdown, then I will put it on the channel before Thursday. If not, it's just going to be a Patreon exclusive video. But let's get into the breakdowns for this card right here. Between the first fight of the night, we got Britney Camoi and Diana Sanchez. And Britney Camoi, she is the wife of former UFC fighter and local Colorado product Chris Camoi. She, like her husband, she trains out of Factory X, which is a really good gym, and she's going to probably be a big ticket seller for the event. She's only 1-2 overall as a pro, 0-1 in the LFA, but she did win her last fight, which was her first pro victory, and she was supposed to fight Alejandra Rosales, who is actually a pretty good fighter, but Rosales had to pull out, and now she got replaced by Diana Sanchez, who is also 1-2, and I believe definitely a step down in competition. So it's a good chance for Camoi to go out there and look good, get the win. And we look at Camoi, she has limited pro experience, but she had her first amateur fight in 2014. So she's been at this for a long time, and she has a kickboxing style. She likes to fight long. She throws okay combinations. She'll throw some nice straight punches. She'll throw body head, good speed, decent leg kicks, head kicks, body kicks. Her footwork is a little awkward. I don't think she has the biggest power either, but she has a big edge on the feet in this fight. She has good head movement. She's much faster, and sometimes she can kind of close the distance and jam her strikes, get put in the clinch. She seems wiry, strong, and she has okay takedown defense, but her wrestling is where she's lacking, and that's where she doesn't want to be with Sanchez here. She wants to be at range striking. And Camoi, she does have decent jiu-jitsu. And if you watch her fight with Kelsey Arneson, she did have some moments in that fight, but Arneson was able to kind of double leg her, bully her against the cage, and dominate on the ground, eventually finish her. So just with Sanchez, who likes to grapple, she can't let Sanchez get her against the cage with the double leg, because Sanchez probably be able to take her down early, especially when she's fresh with that attack. And I feel like as the fight goes on, Camoi will be able to defend it a lot better. But just early on, she has to avoid that and just know that Sanchez is a threat on the ground somewhat. And Diana Sanchez, it's going to be her LFA debut. She's on a 2-fight losing streak. And she is 6 years younger, though, so hopefully she can use that youthfulness to make it competitive or get the win. But she's a grappler. She's an aggressive wrestler. She's an okay double. She has decent takedowns against the cage. She has pretty good back takes, and she's a sloppy wrestler, though, and she gets herself tired. Early on, she might be able to get a takedown or two with her strength, but once she gets tired, she doesn't have that same ability to get it to the ground. She has no real striking to speak of. She'll throw okay kicks, but no setups, low power. Defense is also pretty atrocious, and she's been finished with strikes one time, and it was kind of a weird way that it happened, though. She got hurt with an elbow to the body while she was in full guard and had such a big reaction to the strike that the fight was called. And Sanchez actually, in my opinion, winning that entire fight and ended up losing via TKO with 14 seconds left. But she's dangerous anywhere on the mat. I've seen her throw up submissions from her full guard. And on top, she has average control and back takes. But the issue with her is she has bad cardio, gets very tired. And I feel like Camoi will probably be able to take this one inside the distance. I think that Sanchez may start quick, but I think she'll kind of tuck her out, and I think Camoi will either TKO her or submit her in the second or third round. So Camoi I expect to be like a big favorite. I would say like minus 500, and I do think that she's probably parlayable, but there's an outside chance that Sanchez could wrestle her to a victory. But up next, we got Austin Waterman. He's taking on Chazson. And Waterman, he's a Colorado fighter. He's making his pro debut. He had 4 amateur fights, and he finished all of them within 2 rounds. He's had some knockout wins, some submission wins, and he has power in his hands. He has a good top game. He has a nice left hook. He'll throw the right hand. He has one finish via leg kicks in a recent kickboxing fight too. He's a little stiff. I wouldn't say he's a great striker, but I do think he'll be able to hurt Poulsen if he lands, and I think he's the more composed fighter on the feet in this matchup. Neither fighter really has wanted to strike much in their fights, though, and if this fight plays out how I think it'll be, I think it probably will be a grappling match, but if someone gets a knockdown or rocks their opponent, I think it will be Waterman. And Waterman, he has good takedowns when he can get double underhooks. He can kind of muscle guys to the ground, and he's a beast on top. He has decent ground and pound. He has good big man submissions. He has good Americanas, arm triangles, pretty good front chokes. I would say he's the more capable striker and grappler, but not as good of a wrestler. I do think he could probably use submissions to get into scrambles, even if he does get taken down, though. And when he gets on top, I think he'll do much more damage, have a lot more of a chance to finish, and at least control than Chaz Poulsen. We haven't really seen the cardio tested for Waterman, but he did go into round 2 in his last fight and looked fresh, something Poulsen has not done. And he's the guy that trains out of Colorado, whereas Poulsen also trains out of Colorado, but I just feel like Waterman has the better cardio. But Poulsen, former college wrestler out of Wyoming, he's had 2 amateur fights, and the first one he was able to wrestle his opponent and kind of control position for 2 out of 3 rounds. One of the rounds he got taken down and held down, but his last fight he did an okay job of defending some submissions. He defended a leg lock, took the back, and ended up hitting the rear naked choke, but I'm really not too sure about his grappling level. It seems like he has basic knowledge of positioning, and he did get put on his back for portions of the second round of his amateur debut and was held down and didn't show anything off bottom, so that's why I think if he gets put on his back here, he could struggle. But I really haven't seen too much striking from Poulsen. In his last fight, he was a little bit more on the feet, and I'll say he's very much a work in progress, and he's going to struggle majorly when he can't get the takedown. I think Waterman is the more complete MMA fighter at this point, and also the more athletic and probably bigger, more physical guy. Poulsen may get a takedown or two, but I don't really see him doing much with it, and Poulsen probably eventually will get put on his back, and I think Waterman could finish the fight from there. And I think Waterman could even land a shot on the feet that rocks or knocks out Poulsen as well. So give me Waterman inside the distance. I'll say he wins via second round submission. And up next here we got Kenyan Davis. He's going to be fighting Walter Saragosa. And Walter Saragosa, not very experienced. He's had 2 amateur fights, 1 pro fight. He's had about 6 minutes and 40 seconds of cage time. All of his fights ended in the first round via submission. He's had 1 submission win, 2 submission losses. He last fought in MMA in March, but his last 2 fights have came in boxing, and he had a boxing match in May and June. He got knocked out in both. To me, that's not good to see. Currently, he's lost his last 4 combat sports competitions in a row. He hasn't won a fight in 2.5 years, and from what I saw of him, he likes to use movement and his jab. When fighters pressure or kick him, he looks for the takedown. Seems to be kind of sloppy with his wrestling and grappling. He can get swept. He can get submitted. His 1 win, he hit a guillotine really quick in less than a minute. And Kenyan Davis, he's tall, long, lanky. He's fighting out of Elevation Fight Team. He isn't a great striker, but he has a much more diverse striking game in comparison to Saragosa, and he's the far superior striker. He also has pretty good wrestling defense, and it's more than good enough to defend and reverse the takedowns of Saragosa or even submit him. I think Davis could force Saragosa into a bad takedown, take his back, and hit the rear naked choke. Davis didn't set the world on fire as an amateur with a 5-5 overall record, but definitely should have the edge here. All of his wins are decision wins as an amateur, but I think Friday is going to have a big chance to get his first finish. I haven't seen that much of Saragosa to make that strong of a read, but Davis should dominate here. He's just the far more experienced fighter. He's fought better competition. He's the local Colorado fighter training out of a big-time gym. You see Corey Sandhagen in his corner in fights, and he should be able to dominate at distance. And if Saragosa shoots on him, I think he has more than enough to deal with that. So I'm going to go with Davis, and I'm going to go with the trend of Saragosa's fights, and I'm going to say that Davis wins via first-round submission. And up next here, we got Carlos Rivera, and he's going to be fighting Honda Gutierrez. And I couldn't find any fights on Honda Gutierrez online, and he's undefeated. He's finished all his wins. He trains with Fit NHB, which is a good gym with guys like Tim Means representing it, and in New Mexico, so the elevation won't be as big a deal to him. I've seen some old clips of him boxing with headgear, so kind of assuming he's more of a striker, but he has most of his wins via submission, and I really couldn't surmise much from what I saw in terms of the boxing that I did see. Carlos Rivera, he's a local Colorado guy. He's on a 5-fight winning streak. He's finished all but one of his wins, and his first 2 fights he lost, but he hasn't lost since then. He's been fighting some decent competition. He beat Kenyan Davis, who he just talked about. And personally, I think Rivera probably is going to get the job done just off the experience that he has, the level of competition that he's fought. His gym backing for Gutierrez does kind of scare me a little bit because I do believe in Fit NHB as a gym. But I think Rivera probably is going to win, and I'll say he wins via decision. And up next, we got Daniel Gonzalez. He's going to be in a pretty good fight here. I like this fight, taking on Jordan Burkholder. And Gonzalez, he's a very tall 135er. He's a 10-inch height advantage, 11-inch reach advantage in this fight. Elevation Fight Team product, and he's going to be looking to bounce back from his first career loss in his last fight. Skill-wise, he has good footwork. He can switch stance, moves around. He's fairly elusive. He has a nice jab. He has good straight punches, good accuracy. He has good kicks as well. He'll go high-low with his kicks, changes the placement of his kicks, and his striking is evolving quick with Elevation Fight Team. You could tell that he's getting a lot better really fast. And his wrestling is not great, though. He gets taken down off kicks and just doesn't have the best wrestling in general. He has decent jiu-jitsu. He can use his submissions to finish or sweep, but most of his wins are via submission because he just can't stop opponents from getting him to the ground. He fought a very good wrestler his last fight, and he was able to get up a couple times, but he got grinded on, and then he got finished in the 3rd round. And in other fights, he has shown good back takes and doubles himself, and he can push the pace. He has good pressure. Overall, I think he has the tools to be good, but his wrestling definitely needs to get better, and his wrestling cardio as well needs to get better because he got worn down in his last fight. And Jordan Burkholder is a bad matchup for him. It's a tough fight. Burkholder is a short, compact wrestler, 5'2" against a 6-foot guy, but as a wrestler, I'm sure Burkholder views those long legs as something that plays to his advantage. And he trains with Jackson Winks, so he has a great gym behind him, and he's 4-1 overall. He's also coming off his first career loss. Skill-wise, he's solid. He has good footwork. He gets inside well, nice tight short hooks, solid wrestling. He has a good high guard. He even started mixing in some kicks in his last fight. Good pressure, good speed, solid power. And he spent his last fight striking almost the entire fight because he was fighting a fairly dangerous grappler. And he was competitive, but he came up short. And I'm sure that kind of burned him because he didn't go to his primary weapon, which is his wrestling. This fight, he's fighting a similar guy, a tall guy with good grappling. So I think he's not going to make that same mistake. And I don't think that his opponent, Gonzalez, is as good as his last opponent was. So I think he's going to wrestle a lot more in this fight. But his defense looked good, and he's a formidable guy even in the stand-up. But Burkholder, good double legs, very fast level changes, very aggressive, heavy on top. He likes to blanket opponents. He doesn't really give them much space to move. And throws short ground and pound. He'll methodically work in more dominant positions and then find the submission. Good, really good from the front headlock, super strong there. And he's good in the scrambles. He has to be aware that Gonzalez is a fast back taker and defend that because if he gets such a long guy on his back, it could be difficult for him to get free. But style-wise, he's a difficult style for Gonzalez historically. And he's fought a fighter in his last fight who was similar, like I said. And he struggled to track him down. And his opponent was very mobile, used straight punches, front teeps, leg hits, control the range, even dropped Burkholder early. But I think Burkholder is going to learn from that. And obviously the height and reach will be a problem for him for his whole career. but it also makes him hard to hit, and it makes him get takedowns easier. And I think Burkholder is, like I said, going to be a little bit burned from his last fight due to the fact he didn't trust his wrestling. And I don't see him making that mistake here. I think it's good experience, too, that he struck for 3 rounds and was competitive with a good striker. And I feel like he's going to get takedowns, get on top, dominate. I see him breaking down Gonzalez like we saw Gonzalez's last opponent do, and eventually finishing with ground and pound. So give me Burkholder in this one. And I think Burkholder, as an underdog, if he does open at a good price, could potentially be a good bet. So Jordan Burkholder for me is going to be the play there. And this next fight, we got a female fight. It's a fight between NRA Rep and Shannon Clark. And NRA Rep, she's another girl trained out of Factory X, so another Factory X fighter on the card. Shannon Clark, she's a Canadian fighter. And Clark, big, strong, muscular. She has heavy knees. When she can take top position, she's good on top. Good cardio. She has decent ground and pound. On the feet, she's very stiff. She's slow, hittable. She has bad defense. She throws kicks without any setup. She's tough, but a good striker is going to eat her up. And she's good at keeping the same pace for 3 rounds. Opponents have to be ready to work hard for 15 minutes. And when she can land it, she actually can throw and land hard. So she has that element, but I feel like if she can't get fights to the ground, she's really going to struggle. And NRA Rep, she is 2-0. Both of her fights have been in the LFA, and she's a Muay Thai fighter. I feel like she should have an edge in the clinch, which is pivotal in this matchup. If she can use her technical edge to win the clinch exchanges, she should have a good chance to win the fight. She isn't as big or physical, which maybe she will struggle with that early, but I think she will win the long-term clinch battle. And Rep on the feet has better striking. Her fights normally devolve into clinch affairs. That's why I think this could be a very close fight. But, I think that Rep is the more technical fighter, and he'll probably get the job done. I think both girls will have clinch control, but Rep may have the better cardio and slightly better offense. But this is one of these fights where if Rep opens as a big favorite, I think that Clark could potentially be a nice underdog to potentially target. And this next fight here, we got another. This fight I really like. I think this is one of the best fights on the card. Kyle Machado taking on Ilir Bakhtiar-Ulu. And both these guys are very, very fun to watch. You look at Kyle Machado. He is a guy that likes to pressure. He has a lot of power in that left hook. And he likes to get on the inside and kind of just make it an ugly boxing fight. He can also wrestle a little bit. And he has power. And one of his issues, though, is durability. We saw, like, his last fight with Jonas Bellarino, he was doing really well. He was looking like he was on his way to an upset victory. He was closing distance. He was jamming the kicks at Bellarino and implementing his game plan, pressure boxing and aggressive style. But he got hit with that body shot, got finished, and he's been knocked out several times in his career. When you look at Ilir, he has that clean, striking style where he likes to kind of throw nice combinations. He hides his head kicks behind his punches, straight shots, and but he's hittable. And if you could pressure him, get inside, you could get to him. So I think Machado on the feet long term, if he doesn't get knocked out, probably will win the battle. But Ilir is very fast, and he mixes in wrestling too. And I think that mixing in the takedowns with the striking could put him over the top in the fight with Machado, because I do think that he will be able to hit some takedowns. His double is really, really nice. I think he can hold Machado down. I think he could kind of nullify Machado's wrestling and grappling if Machado wants to try that. And I think it'll open up his striking a little bit and make Machado a little hesitant to pressure. So I'm going to lean towards Ulu, the favorite, or the person who I perceive is going to be the favorite. But if it stays standing and Machado can stuff the takedowns and get in Ulu's face, he does have a chance to get the upset. And this next fight, another really good fight, AJ Robb. He's going to be fighting Isaac Thompson. And AJ Robb's an absolute beast. I mean, the guy comes out extremely aggressive. He's a finisher. He's had 14 fights, and he's finished 12 of them. His last 4 wins are first-round finishes. Very explosive, fast. throws big punches. He has good wrestling. If he lands clean, he has the power to put fighters to sleep, and he has decent submissions on top. He has good wrestling. I haven't seen his cardio tested too much, but he looks like he's in good shape. He was winning his fight with Mario Batista for nearly the entire time until he got caught in a guillotine in the second round. And he trains in Colorado, so he should have the cardio. I do think that he's going to be the smaller fighter here because he has fought at bantamweight and his opponent has fought at lightweight. They're meeting in the middle at 45, but that could potentially be an issue. And Rob, we did see he struggled a little bit with the guy with a good jab and movement in his boxing match. So hard to gauge because obviously boxing isn't MMA, but that's something that Isaac can maybe glean from a little bit. And Isaac Thompson, super tough young Australian fighter out of Team Alpha Male, tall and long. He's going to have a reach and height advantage in this fight. On the feet, he has a nice jab, good footwork, good fakes, feints. He has a nice left hook. He'll throw nice front kicks up the middle and likes to go to the body and then open up the head kicks later in the fight. In his last loss to Dorian Ramos, he did get taken down, beat up, then finish with ground and pound in the second. But he came back and showed better wrestling after that. And he isn't a fish out of water on the ground either. He does have good submissions, good scrambling ability, super tough. Rob, though, if he can get down Thompson early, he's going to have big ground and pound and be very dangerous on the mat. So I think Thompson, if he can get on top, though, which Thompson does have decent scrambling ability, like I said, and if Rob shoots a bad takedown and Thompson can get on top that way, then he actually is really good in the top position himself, too. I would say he isn't as dangerous or powerful as Rob, but he's more technical with his top pressure and more technical with his striking. And I think Isaac Thompson has a lot of potential. I don't really trust his wrestling. I think that Rob is explosive enough to get inside and use his wrestling early to get the takedowns, open up power punches. I'm not sure he's going to be able to control or dominate Thompson on top, though. And he's going to have to figure out how to close the distance for the entire fight. And Thompson is improving constantly. He's going to be confident. He's coming off a head kick knockout win. He's fought the better competition, and I'm sure he's seen that style, a guy that wants to throw big punches and take him down, has good front headlock at Team Alpha Male all the time, and he's going to have to prove that he can beat a wrestler, and I'm going to go with Thompson, but it's kind of a pass for me unless Thompson is a big dog, which I don't imagine, but I'm going to lean towards Isaac Thompson to take a competitive decision in this fight. I think it's going to be a really entertaining fight, actually. And co-main event here, we got Hayward Charles, who's OG guy out of Colorado. He has fought a ton of times, obviously 18 and 14 overall. And he's here mostly to sell tickets, I would say. I mean, out of his 18 victories, 17 are submissions. He's only 1-7 in fights that have went the decision. He's been knocked out 6 times. And he's just a big fighter for the weight class that's aggressive early and throws a lot of wild kicks. Tries to bait guys into scrambles with him. And then he has a okay double. He'll sell out for it early. And he'll shoot that double and then pull guard as well. And he's tricky on the ground. I mean, obviously anyone with that many submissions, you're going to assume that. And that's really what he does. He'll try to take you down early. When he can't take you down anymore, he'll try to pull guard and make it an awkward fight and then submit you. But he spends a large amount of times on his back in fights when he can't find the submission. And he slows down majorly. I feel like he's just... A lot of the guys that have beat him have been UFC fighters, so that's something that you kind of have to put into account. But I just think he's not the greatest overall fighter. And his opponent, he's 2-0 in the LFA. He's coming off a knockout win just 2 months ago. And he's 10-1-1. So I think he's definitely going to be a big favorite. He's a strong wrestler. And he also could strike, though. He showed that in his last fight. And I personally see him being smart and probably keeping this one standing and beating up Charles that way. He has good footwork, high guard, the more technical offense, and I feel like he can feint the level changes, throw big punches, stuff the takedowns, not get pulled into getting on top from the guard pulls, and just use his jab, set up the big right cross, and I think he could eventually get the job done via knockout. I think that he's going to fight smart here and walk Charles down, pick his shots, get him against the fence, and end the fight. It's hard to finish Charles via strikes just because he's so willing to pull guard, but I think, you know, he's been finished 6 times in his 14 losses that way, and I think that it's going to be a 7th time here. So give me the fighter from Kazakhstan to get it done in the co-main event. And finally, we got the main event here. We got Harris. I'm not 100% sure how to say this guy's name. Harris Tuluncic. Hopefully, he's going to be fighting Daniel Frenza. And Harris, he's a Factory X guy. And very hard kicks, like many guys from that gym. He's southpaw. He switches stance. And a little stiff, but his leg kicks, front kicks are powerful. Those heavy head kicks, too. Nice overhands. His 1-2s are good. His jab looked improved in his fight at LFA 147. And he throws a ton of volume. He stays very active. He has good double legs against the fence, good back takes, nice top control. He struggled with the wild striking and kicks of Chris Brown, but even that fight was competitive. And I think the southpaw versus southpaw element and the length of Brown made that a tough fight for Tuluncic. In his last fight, he did get dropped a couple times in the first round against a power puncher, but ended up breaking him down and won in a war. Got the back, got the rear naked choke. And seeing that his opponent, Daniel Frenza, has lost twice via rear naked choke, I'm sure Tuluncic is going to be looking to get the back and make it a 3rd. And Daniel Frenza, he debuted in the LFA in August, and he announced himself in a big way because he knocked out Jalen Fuller in the first round. Coming back quickly, he's facing another established LFA veteran, and a win here, I could see an LFA title shot in his near future. And he's a slick striker. He has fast kicks to all parts of the body, good straight punches. He throws nice 1-2s down the pipe. He's accurate, powerful. He does a good job of going high-low with his kicks, mixing up the target, nasty calf kicks. His last fight, when he realized Jalen Fuller couldn't fight off the back foot, he did an excellent job of pressuring him, getting inside, and slipping and ripping and ending the fight. He doesn't have the best defense or a great chin. He's kind of a glass cannon. He did get knocked out and submitted in his CES fight. But he's a dangerous fighter. He's a pretty smart striker overall who's getting better. I haven't seen him defend many takedowns or work off his back. He seems to be fairly strong. He seems like he's okay at digging underhooks. His last fight, he did defend a standing back take and front choke against Jalen Fuller. The fight he got submitted with the rear naked choke, it was after he got dropped that I saw, so it was tough to decipher much from that. But he's a killer-be-killed fighter who has only been in decision 1 time. And that's a factor in this fight because he's facing a fighter who's a cardio guy fighting in Colorado. So if he can't get it done early, I think he could get tired. But I do think he has a big chance to get an early knockout. I think that he's another one of these guys that could potentially be a live underdog. Tuluncic probably will get a takedown, though, and start to wear on Frenza if not submit him. And I think he's the more durable fighter. I believe he could take a shot or two to implement what he wants to do. His last win was impressive. He did get hurt, but he showed good tenacity and good fight IQ. And he needs to be on point minus P's and Q's here. But I'm going to say that Tuluncic wins via submission in the 2nd round. So one of these fights where I think the under, if it doesn't go to decision, or the under 2.5 is set at a decent price, that could be something that you could look at. And then I think Frenza as a dog, if he's a big dog, is also a play. Or Tuluncic, whoever is the underdog, I think would be the pick for this fight. But there you have it, guys. It's a full card breakdown and predictions video for this week's LFA card. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you enjoyed it and learned something from it. I'm going to be putting bets out for this card and Invicta and some other events this week. I believe there's at least 1 or 2 other events for MMA that's going to have some odds. And next week we got a UFC show and all that. So go to patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru for that extra content. And like I said at the beginning of this video, If I get 50 likes, if I get 5 comments down below saying they want that Invicta breakdown, then I will do that before Thursday. So hit that like button, put a comment down below. Let's try to get that goal and get that video out there for all the people and all you guys that want to watch it. So thanks, guys. I'll be back soon and talk to you guys later.